Where are the Osama bin Laden death photos? How can a president who was so uncharacteristically bold in ordering the U.S. military to take out bin Laden be such a wimp on releasing these pictures? That's where we begin on the Wednesday edition of BHL. The Budman here on the 50,000-watt front porch. Jenna and Jeff in the control room, and we are going to have a heavy emphasis on this unresolved issue of the Osama bin Laden death photos here and what is at work. And then I'm going to be taking your calls. Tell me, do you want them released? Will you try and shield your children from them? Because they are reportedly gruesome, extremely gruesome. I frankly don't care how gruesome they are. I don't care whether Muslims are offended. I don't care whether they are incensed, whether they become inflamed. They didn't care what has happened to thousands of innocent people at the hands of radical Islam over the nearly 2 decades that Osama bin Laden led the Al-Qaeda terrorist organization. Do you think for a minute that Osama bin Laden had an iota of regret whatsoever about the nearly 3,000 people he blew to smithereens in the Twin Towers? Come on. Come on. What in the world are we afraid of? Are we going to be the world's lone superpower or not? Are we going to be the United States that speaks softly but carries the big stick and bottom line could give a rip? We do what's right, what needs to be done. We let the chips fall where they may, and we take care of business. And so it is in the White House that apparently there are 3 sets of bin Laden death photos taken out at the airbase in Afghanistan, taken during the raid, and taken out at sea before they slid him into the ocean to sleep with the fishes and be eaten by the fishes until there's nothing left. What in the world is the president dithering about on releasing these photos? 407-916-5400. I've given him credit for his uncharacteristic boldness. As commander-in-chief, he had to sign off on a very, very risky mission, carried out in exemplary fashion by the best of the best, our Navy SEALs. But this thing could have turned into a total fiasco. Could have turned into what happened to Jimmy Carter when he tried to get our hostages out, and the helicopters that went down in the sands of the desert, and that complete disaster from which his presidency never recovered. Barack Obama rolled the dice and laid it on the line here. He made a tough, gutsy call. This could have destroyed his presidency. It resulted in the greatest triumph of his presidency and the greatest victory we have scored in the war on terror ever, without question. And he's the commander-in-chief. He could have done it another way. They could have dropped bombs on the compound when they were sure bin Laden was in there, and we'd never know definitively whether or not we got him. Well, now we have definitive photographic proof, and this president will not release the photos. Apparently there's a big internal struggle in the White House. CIA Director Leon Panetta, and credit to Panetta, too, because he was the guy who put this whole thing together from the intel standpoint. He says a photo will be forthcoming. He said it on NBC Nightly News last night, but it is not forthcoming. And Jay Carney, the wimpy White House press spokesman, he's saying, well, you know, we have to be honest here. There are sensitivities about releasing these photographs, you know, and in terms of appropriateness of releasing these photographs of Osama bin Laden. And they're going back and forth here. Apparently, the president is reluctant to make public images of the body available because it is so bloodied and badly wounded, and a perceived lack of respect for the dead could lead to a backlash. That's the word out of the White House. Lack of respect for the dead? Well, that's exactly what Osama bin Laden had for all of our innocent people in all of these attacks that he engineered over all of these years. What the heck is going on here, gang? Release the pictures. Be as bold, Mr. President, in releasing the pictures and letting the chips fall where they may, and we'll deal with the chips, as you were in signing off on this high-risk, lay it all on the line, roll the dice mission to kill Osama bin Laden. 407-916-5400. One report says in the most identifiable bin Laden picture, there is a massive head wound above his left eye with brains and blood visible. Now, you tell me, should the photos be released? Fox News at foxnews.com has asked that in a poll. They've had 125,000 votes. 80% of the people say, yeah, it's the only way to quiet any talk that he's still alive. 14% say no, there's no reason to fuel any further Muslim hatred. And 6% say, yeah, well, maybe release him because the images should be made available to all members of Congress, perhaps instead of the general public. No, the entire world needs to see him. The Taliban want to see photographic proof. By God, let's give it to them. And why hasn't it happened already? Where are you on this? Let's talk. 407-916-5400. Toll free 1-866-916-5400. Good morning. It's 6:12 on the Wednesday edition of BHL. First look at real-time traffic and weather together on the twos. % of the people want the photos out there of Osama bin Laden with a bullet through his eye. So does the Taliban. Why is the president hesitating? Tell me. 407-916-5400. Now I'm going to tell you how to save a lot of money, perhaps before you even get to work today, by getting your homeowner's insurance coverage switched to a carrier that's not going to charge you through the nose. It happens every day to my listeners through Florida Insurance Specialists and their amazing website, ChallengeMyRate.com. ChallengeMyRate.com. You go to ChallengeMyRate.com, and minutes from now, you'll know what you can save, and it could be a lot of money. Like one of my Lake Mary listeners who was a customer with State Farm that just got a 19% rate hike, by the way, paying $2,300 a year on homeowners, got switched by Florida Insurance Specialist in minutes to prepared insurance at about $1,100 a year, pocketed $1,200 in savings. What can you save? Find out now at ChallengeMyRate.com. ChallengeMyRate.com. On the phone, Florida Insurance Specialist, 407-805-0200. Mother's Day coming up this Sunday. Now, you're not going to have Mom cook, are you? How about taking Mom and the whole family to my favorite restaurant? How about taking Mom and the whole family to your nearest Hula Hands? 4 locations in the Orlando area, great Orlando tradition. They have a Mother's Day brunch that is so affordable and oh so delectable. You don't want to miss this at your Hula Hands, a fabulous Mother's Day brunch with an omelet station, carving station, a delicious array of Hula Hands signature dishes and desserts. And you know they make them all from scratch. Or just take Mom to Hula Hands for lunch or dinner and a great meal that's not going to break your budget. You're just going to love Hula Hands as we do. And you'll find one close to you, East Colonial Drive. I drive across from Point Orlando, University Boulevard out toward UCF and on 192 in Kissimmee. Check the website for more, hulahands.com. And Mother's Day or lunch today at Hula Hands. This is making me crazy, this dithering in the White House about whether or not to release the bin Laden photos. You know, some say, well, it's just going to be too shocking to see this. I think it's going to be a great thing to see. You know, I mean, this guy got, if anybody ever has in the history of the world, at least in our generation, exactly what he deserved, and we need to see absolute rock-solid photographic proof, or this guy is going to live forever. Okay, in the radical Islamic world, he'll achieve mythical status beyond what he already has. And 20 years from now, we'll be reading newspaper accounts that he's still running Al-Qaeda, secretly hiding out in a warehouse on the south side of Chicago or something. I mean, this has got to be knocked out and nipped in the bud right now. And I don't care if the Muslim world goes bonkers over this. And neither should the president. And there should be no special accommodation just because we're afraid of what the Muslim world is going to say or do. If the president was concerned about that, he never would have ordered the attack to take out and kill Osama bin Laden, because that's made radical Islam pretty mad. He did that, release the photos. It's all upside, no downside as I see it. Stop the dithering. Edwin in Orlando, good morning at 6:20. How do you see it on the photos?
I just see that I think eventually they're going to release the photos. It's just a lot of, you know, detailed information has to be cleared up.
What has to be cleared up? We have the pictures. Here they are.
Well, at the time of the attack, you know, it came so sudden, but it was real secretive. So, you know, they got to keep the press at bay because, you know, everybody's going to be wanting to pay big money for that, too. So, you know, and that's not about the money. It's just about, you know, the sensitivity of the nature.
What is the sensitivity? Is it that we don't want to offend small children in America who might see the photos, never mind all the images they see in our movies and our mass media, etc.? Or is it just that we just don't want to inflame Islam?
I don't think it's about inflaming Islam.
Do you think it's about that it's just too much for the American people and their kids to see?
It could be. You know,
how do you feel about that, Edwin? Would you shield your kids or your grandkids?
Possibly.
All right. Thank you very much. But you do believe the pictures are coming out. Now, let me ask you this. Are you worried about your children seeing these pictures? Would that be a reason why you might agree with a hesitation or a failure to release these pictures? Is that where you're coming from? How concerned are you that Islam's going to go bananas? If there's a picture out there with Osama bin Laden with a bullet through his eye and blood all over the place, do you have any hang-ups about these pictures being released? I have none. 407-916-5400. We continue on the phones at 622. Real-time traffic and weather together on the twos. Front coming down from the north, clouds on the increase today, scattered afternoon showers and storms at 87, 67 here in Orlando. Release the Osama bin Laden death photos, Mr. President, now. Here's David's take from Orlando. Good morning, David.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
Very well, sir. Welcome to the show. What do you think?
I think they should be released immediately.
Well, why the failure to do that? Big internal struggle in the White House, and the president is apparently the one who won't sign off on it yet.
Well, you know, you were talking about him making a courageous move. I believe it was, but I don't think it was bold. Unfortunately, I think it was between a rock and a hard spot. If they would have found out that he could have got the gentleman and did nothing about it, he'd be finished.
Well, actually, I think he was bold but not courageous. I think the courage was in the hearts and the hands of the Navy SEALs who actually had to do this. But I do think he was very, very bold, but now he's going back to being a wimp on this stuff because he's afraid of what's going to happen in the Muslim world. Listen, if they're going to engineer reprisals and revenge, which they already are talking about in some circles, believe me, the death of Osama bin Laden, whether there are photos or not, has inflamed radical Islam.
I believe that's true. I also believe that I heard you mention, I think it was yesterday, the day before, that they have a picture of the Statue of Liberty holding bin Laden's head.
Well, you can get that on a T-shirt.
Yeah, well...
As a matter of fact, I want one.
Yeah, and that's enough to inflame. I want one real bad.
I'm not kidding. They're all over online. You have to see it. The torch has been replaced by a severed head of Osama bin Laden. It's an absolutely fantastic T-shirt. I guess I'm not proud of the fact that I feel that way, but I do. It's a real classic. David, thank you very much. Greg, you're in Kissimmee checking in on this. The photos. Get them out there, Mr. President. So says the Budman. What say you? Hello, Greg.
Hey, yeah, Bud. Hey, I'll be honest with you. I say release the photos, but I won't be looking at them. I have a weak stomach, and I can't really look at it, but I encourage people to look at it, and then guess what? Tell me about it. Just like when the terrorists were cutting off all the American heads, I never looked at it because I didn't have a desire to, but people told me about it. But that was my choice, you know, so I say go ahead and release the photos.
Sure. Nobody is going to tie you down, pry your eyelids open, and make you stare into a photograph of Osama bin Laden with a bullet through his eye. You know, but it ought to be out there for all the reasons I've cited, and I'm glad, even though you have a problem seeing it personally, that you understand why this needs to be done and should already have been done. Chris is in Titusville. Good morning, Chris.
Hey, morning, Bud.
So what about this reluctance, apparently on the part of the president, to get the photos out there? Panetta says at least one is coming, but it's not out yet.
Yeah, my personal opinion is I think he's going to hold on to this and keep it, you know, keep everybody talking about it in the media as long as possible to ride it out, because any publicity is good publicity, and to keep people away from talking about real issues such as gas prices and everything else that's going on, this is keeping everybody off of those subjects, and he's going to ride this out just as long as he did with his birth certificate.
An orchestrated delay, not a legitimate internal debate.
Exactly.
Very interesting.
You know, I mean, they had plenty of time to discuss what they were going to do. I mean, they got they had a Muslim cleric on the ship to do the burial, and they had that all pre-planned before. You mean to tell me that they didn't discuss whether they're going to let the pictures out before they even did this operation?
Excellent point you make, Chris. Excellent point. By the way, in the next half hour, I'm going to bring an expert on to talk about that burial at sea and its relevance to the Muslim world. You'll want to stay with that. You're also going to be hearing from Orlando's local Imam Musri, who's finally saying something about the death of Osama bin Laden, which you'll find interesting. Here's Bill in Kissimmee on the photos. Release them now. What about it, Bill?
Yes, I think they should release them. There's several reasons. One, that's coming just several days after the birth certificate fiasco. They have to know that people have no trust in what their government tells them without proof, especially something this momentous. Their other argument is that the pictures are gruesome, but are they any more gruesome than the pictures we've had to look at for almost 10 years of the Twin Towers collapsing, people jumping to their death?
No.
There was a famous picture of the fire department chaplain, Father Michael Judge's lifeless body being carried out of the wreckage of the building.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and they had no reluctance from the other side, you know, to put people through hell like this. And now to see Osama bin Laden's final moment on this earth, I think, is something with no downside to it. Thank you all. Great calls. More coming on this. Stay tuned. Wall Street Journal report right after the bottom of the hour news update. Coming your way now from Michelle Murillo. Stay tuned on BHL. Good morning at 6:28.
So I just push the deposit checks button. Inside these checks Or delays along the interstate this morning. We're in good shape as well in both directions of 528 between I-4 and I-95 at the time. And checking clear along the 408. The turnpike is up to speed as well. It's a standard 10 to 13 minutes between State Road 50 and I-4. If you do happen to see a problem on the roadways, call our tip line at 866-676-8477. From the Traffic Center, I'm Courtney Bright.
Traffic on Air Online, a service of the Early Learning Coalition. VPK stands for Voluntary Pre-Kindergarten. It's free to Florida residents regardless of income and is offered at sites around Orange County. Enroll your 4-year-old today. Call the VPK hotline at 407-532-4254 or visit elcoc.org. From the Early Learning Coalition of Orange County. This portion of 540 WFLA is brought to you by Trustco Bank.
From 540 WFLA, Orlando's 24-hour weather channel, we're off to a great start this morning. We'll see plenty of blue sky through midday and a slight chance for a stray thunderstorm late this afternoon. The temperature backing off a little bit in the upper 80s. Weather updated around the clock on 540 WFLA. I'm David Maddox at the Weather Channel.
This is Bud Henninger Live.
They proved themselves worthy of the traditions behind them.
On 540 WFLA.
And equal to whatever tasks were ahead of them.
Half an hour from now, I'm live with Governor Rick Scott right here after the 7 o'clock news. Don't miss it. Right now, a can't-miss feature every day on BHL. Our morning Wall Street Journal report coming up at 6:35, and that's the time check right now. Here from the Wall Street Journal Radio Network, their top flight editor, Mike Salvatorelli. Good morning to you, Mike. Well, I'm just fine, and I hope you are as well. This is interesting in the Journal report, the Wall Street Journal reporting on a showdown between the Obama Justice Department and a big-time bank, which I imagine will leave the Bud man not quite knowing who to root for. But go ahead on this.
Well, the Justice Department is taking Deutsche Bank to court, accusing the German financial giant of recklessly lying about the quality of home loans it made. Uncle Sam is seeking to recover more than $1 billion. That's what it be. And alleged damages and losses on the mortgages which had to be insured by the government. A Deutsche Bank spokeswoman said the claims are unreasonable and unfair, and the bank intends to fight them.
We'll see how it all works out. A heavyweight fight in the financial world there. And the Wall Street Journal, which is the beauty of the best newspaper in America, reports on all kinds of things just beyond matters of finance, for which, of course, they are best known. There's an online dating scam that the Journal is throwing the spotlight on this morning. What can you tell us, Mike? Oh. Guy's got to be a complete idiot. But it's amazing to me because I always thought that what was the great peril with these online dating relationships and these online dating services was that you might end up with somebody who's not as advertised. You know, maybe they're ugly, maybe they're nasty, but the idea that they don't even really exist I'd never considered before. And on the Wall Street Journal report in conclusion this morning, you hear a lot about cellulite. Women are always worried about that, you know, the bumpy skin on the thighs. But you're reporting on something called cellulose, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is wood pulp in our food, Mike? No kidding. Now, do they have to give you a warning, I wonder, about cellulose? I mean, is there any downside to this, or is it good for you because it's fiber and it's cost effective and ultimately you save some money? Yeah. Yeah. I understand. Okay. Nothing like keeping us regular. Something to be thinking about at 6:38 in the morning. Okay, that's our Wall Street Journal report from Mike Salvatorelli, the editor of the Wall Street Journal Radio Network. WSJ.com is the on-site presence of the best newspaper in America. Pick it up, subscribe to it. The one and only Wall Street Journal. We'll have another report with Mike tomorrow at the same time. Have a great day, my friend.
You too, bud.
Okay, good deal. Now, listen, we have been talking about the reaction to the killing of Osama bin Laden. Taliban types have been, they want to see the photos, by the way. Taliban types have been screaming and protesting. You know, their hero is dead, you know, and the great Satan, the United States of America, yada, yada, yada. You got an imam screaming out of Jerusalem that Obama will hang for this, and the glorious leader of Al-Qaeda has been sent to his grave by the leader of the great Satan, and they're going crazy here and there. But basically my feeling has been, in general, and do you agree with me, that the Muslim community has been very, very low-key in its response to this. And here in Orlando, the imam, the president of the Islamic Society of Central Florida, Mohammed Musri, who's pretty much a low-key guy, seems like a reasonable fellow for the most part, and really is the spokesman for the Muslim community here, was interviewed by Channel 6. He won't come on the program here when I host it, but here's what he told Channel 6. You'll find this interesting. You talk about low-key. Here's Musri's reaction to news the U.S. military had killed bin Laden.
It was, you know, very, very good news that finally, after almost 10 years, that we finally have bin Laden killed, and it brought such a relief.
Okay. Some people are just low-key. But, I would have expected a little more pop. Do you suppose that's the way he talks during services? I don't know. Also from Musri, Imam Musri, bin Laden giving a false impression, he says, of Islam that has been very hard on Muslims, that American Muslims have always been on America's side in the war on terror, never on al-Qaeda's side.
He defamed our religion, and we, for 10 years, have been in competition trying to reclaim our voice as American Muslims and to tell the world that we are totally against what he stands for. And what he stands for is absolutely not Islam. As American Muslims, from day one, we always stood with our country. Osama bin Laden never represented us. He never stood for me. He never represented my faith. He is a thug, a criminal, a terrorist who deserved what he got. And we never agreed with his ideology.
I guess I'm asking too much for the imam or for Muslims in Central Florida and in general across this country to be out there cheering USA, USA, along with everybody else at news of the killing of Osama bin Laden. I'm just saying, it seems to me that there's more work to be done here to give us a real sense of what side Muslims in America and generally worldwide are on here. But I wanted you to hear from Imam Musri because I can't get him to respond to my calls to come on this show because I guess some of the things I say, as I call him like I see him always, he has a problem with. I don't know because he won't talk to the Budman. Up next, an expert on the Middle East, on the Muslim burial of Osama bin Laden and the significance of that to the Islamic world, and more coming up at 6:42 on BHL.
From the David Moss Volkswagen Lee Road Traffic Center, so far so good along I-4. No accidents or delays along the interstate this morning. We're in good shape as well in both directions of 528 between I-4 and I-95 at the time. And checking clear along the 408. The turnpike is up to speed as well as the standard 10 to 13 minutes between State Road 50 and I-4. If you do happen to see a problem on the roadways, call our tip line at 866-676-8477. From the Traffic Center, I'm Courtney Bright.
From 540 WFLA, Orlando's 24-hour weather channel, we're off to a great start this morning. We'll see plenty of blue sky through midday and a slight chance for a stray thunderstorm late this afternoon. The temperature backing off a little bit in the upper 80s. Weather updated around the clock on 540 WFLA. I'm David Maddox at the Weather Channel.
Good morning, I'm Michelle Morello. Coming up in your 7 o'clock news, a court appeal could put the Casey Anthony case on hold. Looks like immigration reform in Florida will have to wait until next year. And the first clues to the whereabouts of Osama bin Laden came years ago.
I've been talking about that immigration bill with Rick Scott, the governor, joining me live here at 7:05. Stay with me on that. Right now, I've been talking to you about the changeable Florida weather and what a number it does on a paint job. Paint never holds up in this climate, and suddenly just a couple of years after you paid thousands of dollars to a painter to do your house, or even more if you're a landlord with an apartment building complex or a pastor with a church, you're painting once again. You got to break this cycle. This is insanity. What you need to do is never paint again. I want you to get a free estimate today on the amazing alternative to paint, Colorcrete, made here in Orlando by Colorcrete of Central Florida. Great family-owned business, in business for more than 50 years. And guess what? When you get a Colorcrete job, goes on like thick paint, looks like a brand-new paint job, there the resemblance to paint ends. Because with Colorcrete, unlike with paint, they're going to hand you a 25-year guarantee on the job. 25 years. You won't have to paint again or Colorcrete again until 2036. Now, come on, you got to love that. And unlike with paint, with Colorcrete, you're going to get a protective barrier against wind-driven rain. It'll prevent mildew and put a stop to peeling, chalking, and cracking. It is so much more durable. You get the 25-year guarantee and a great Colorcrete price. Even better now, they've lowered it 10% for you, and they'll give you a free pressure cleaning of your driveway and sidewalks. Don't paint. Get a free estimate today from Colorcrete of Central Florida. You're going to thank me. 407-851-3442. Call them. 407-851-3442. Online, colorcreteusa.com.
If you're overwhelmed by debt, I want to remind you about Walk-In Wednesday. I'm attorney Matt England with KEL. Come in anytime today from 8 to 8 to meet with an attorney free of charge. No appointment needed. 800 New Laws, KEL. You have questions, we have answers. Kaufman, England & Lind, Office Orlando.
Mortgage rates are as low as 3%, 3.2% APR. Go to LendingTree.com today, where refinance customers save an average of $293 a month or more. Click or call 1-800-555-TREE to find out how much you can save today. That's 1-800-555-TREE.
Let's hear it. 3 cheers for fire ants. I don't hear anything. That's because fire ants are friendless heathens. They have no pals, no buds, no homies, yo. No one who comes over and says, let's go bowling. All they do is bite your butt and mock you. That's why fire ants must die. But how? With a heavy bag of chemicals? A slow-acting bait? A flamethrower?
Thank sweet heaven there's Orthene Fire Ant Killer from Ortho. Just sprinkle 1 tablespoon of Orthene on the mound and watch the fun.
You don't even water it in. What could be easier?
The workers track it back to the queen and say,
honey, I'm home, and by the way, you're dead.
Kills the whole colony, even the queen.
Wow!
So leave it to Orthene Fire Ant Killer from Ortho, the smart, easy way to say,
fire ants must die.
Ortho, defend what's yours.
Orthene Fire Ant Killer is one of the essentials for your southern lawn. For more must-have products, visit ortho.com/essentials.
Dave Ramsey here. If you're looking for an awesome real estate agent to buy or sell a home, my team and I can help. To find the real estate agent I recommend in your city, go to daveramsey.com and click Endorsed Local Provider. That's daveramsey.com and click Endorsed Local Provider.
From seminars to workshops to fundraisers, events are an important part of how you promote your small organization. So what's the best way to make sure your events are successful? For my money, it's Constant Contact's event marketing service. Event marketing makes it super simple to promote and manage events of all kinds. It even captures online registration and online payments. And get this, it works perfectly with Facebook, Twitter, and other social media. Read the free guide, Using Social Media to Plan and Promote Your Events, at ConstantContact.com/event marketing.
At Regions, we're building a better banking experience for each small business customer. That means giving you the basics, like checking and savings, as well as offering the right lending options. Because we understand how important capital, revenue, and cash flow are to your small business. So if you're ready for a bank that's as committed to growing your business as you are, switch to Regions. Visit Regions.com/yourbusiness today. Regions, it's time to expect more. Regions Bank, member FDIC. All loans subject to credit approval. See individual account disclosures for details.
Hey, you know what? The news of the day will get your heart pumping just like it does mine. But you know what? The most important thing is that it keeps on beating, because you've got a lot of folks who want you around for the long haul. And please don't think, like I once did, that if you don't have shortness of breath or chest pain that you're fine, and that if you've passed a heart test or two, that your ticker is good for the long haul and isn't going to fail you, and you will not be the latest victim of a sudden, instantaneously lights-out heart attack. Believe me, there is one heart scan that will definitively show what shape your heart is in. It's quick and easy. I've had it. It saved my life. It has saved thousands of more lives here in Central Florida. It is the Bud Scan Heart Scan Breakthrough, pioneered in Central Florida by my heart doc, Ken Kronhaus from Lake Cardiology. This is where you want to be, the best in heart care, and ICACTL agrees with me on that. They are the commission that sets the standard for quality care in heart CT scanning, and they have designated Lake Cardiology, home of Dr. Kronhaus, the first and only medical facility anywhere in the area they accredit for CT scanning of the heart. It is your heart, it is your life. I was saved by this scan. Please, if not for yourself, then for those who love you and want you around for the long haul, would you just make one phone call and call Lake Cardiology and ask them if the Bud Scan might be right for you. 352-735-1400 is the number. It's important. Here it is again. Call them today, please. 352-735-1400. More on our website, keyword Bud Scan.
This is Bud Henninger Live.
It does help to maintain the moral and physical health of the community.
On 540 WFLA.
I want to get some other perspectives on the worldwide reaction of the Islamic world to the killing of Osama bin Laden. But you may also have some questions about the great care ordered by the Obama administration of the body of Osama bin Laden, leading to that very quick burial at sea. And for that expertise, we turn to the professor of Islamic Studies and Christian-Muslim Relations at Hartford Seminary, Mahmoud M. Ayub. Welcome to Bud Henninger Live. Thanks for coming on so early this morning, sir.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
What is your reaction as a Muslim to the assassination, essentially, of Osama bin Laden?
The assassination is part of the necessary political and military activity of this country. And according to Islamic law, a person who kills senselessly deserves to be killed. So that is not an issue in itself, actually. The issue is how the person was dealt with, both when he was still alive and when he died. And we are now interested in the burial at sea.
Yes, and I want to talk with you about that. And my understanding was that normally you would only bury a Muslim at sea if the Muslim had died at sea, which in the case of Osama bin Laden obviously would not be the case. What can you tell us?
Yes, that is true. A person who dies at sea and there is no other way to dispose of the body in a dignified way, then the body will be buried at sea. But according to the Quran, that is the Islamic scripture, human beings are taken from the earth and they will be returned to the earth at burial, and they will be resurrected out of the earth on the day of judgment. So human beings are earthbound creatures, and so burial at sea is a violation of the dignity of the grave.
Well, let me ask you more about that in one moment. And this is Mahmoud Ayub, professor of Islamic Studies and Christian-Muslim Relations at Hartford University, with a Budman, back with the interview in 60 seconds. Here's your rush hour update now, 6:52, real-time traffic and weather together.
From the David Moss Volkswagen Lee Road Traffic Center, we're still in good shape so far this morning along I-4, slowly starting to see that building traffic pick up eastbound through downtown, but still up to speed through this area. The 408 is moving along well, and we are delay-free at the time in both directions of the turnpike in between Leesburg and St. Cloud. Continue to see a good ride along 528 between I-4 and the coast. If you do see a problem on the roadways, call our tip line at 866-676-8477. From the Traffic Center, I'm Courtney Bright.
Increasing cloudiness today, scattered afternoon showers and storms as the front comes down on us. Nothing too serious envisioned. High 87, 67 degrees here in Orlando. Back with Professor Mahmoud Ayub. So you're saying that the U.S. Burying Osama bin Laden at sea was a violation of directives in the Quran?
In a way, yes. I mean, there are always necessities in any legal system, and Islam runs in accordance with a legal system that we call Sharia. And legally, a person, when the person dies, should be washed and shrouded and buried in a grave in the earth, not at sea. And there is the other question is, what happened to the body? Like, for instance, we hear that Osama bin Laden was placed in a bag or a suitcase or a box or whatever and put at sea. Did that mean that the body had to be mutilated in order to fit in a container of any kind?
Now, this is interesting, sir, because I think our perception is that extraordinary care was taken with the remains of this man who didn't care about any of his victims on 9/11, yet you're saying that Muslims might well be offended with the way things went with Osama bin Laden's burial.
Simply from the point of view of the dignity of the dead, you know. I'm not justifying the 9/11 atrocities or whatever ideas we have about Osama bin Laden and the reality of his life and activity. That is not my topic of discussion.
But you want to help us understand how important proper burial is, even of Osama bin Laden, in Islam.
Yes, proper burial is very important in Islam for everybody, even your enemies. When you kill them, you have to shroud them and wash them and offer the funeral.
Now, my understanding is that they did all of that. They did the washing and the shrouding, etc.
Yeah. These are emerging bits of information that there was indeed a service of sorts on that aircraft carrier.
Right.
And Osama bin Laden was disposed of at sea. Now, of course, that raises another question. Burying at sea gets rid completely of any evidence of what really happened in the discovery and killing of Osama bin Laden.
Well, perhaps then that's just one more reason why you might be aligned with me in saying that those death photos need to be released by the Obama White House. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I don't know why they don't release them. The argument that they may offend some Muslims and turn Muslim opinion against the U.S.
Do you think that's a legitimate concern? What do you think the Muslim world will do? What kind of reaction will there be by radical Islam to seeing Osama bin Laden with a bullet through his eye?
Yeah.
Tell me what kind of reaction you expect. These are your people, sir.
It's difficult to say. The majority of Muslims dissociate themselves from Osama bin Laden. And for that reason, probably the reaction may not be as severe as we think, but I think the administration owes it to the American people and to the world to release as many details of what happened as possible, if for no other reason but to assure people that indeed the person who was killed and buried at sea was Osama bin Laden and not somebody else.
Professor, in closing, and I only have about a minute left here, one thing that has concerned me is I think there's been a remarkably, generally speaking, understated reaction in the Islamic world to the killing of Osama bin Laden. You got the Taliban types who are screaming and going crazy, and you got some imams here and there who are screaming from the pulpit for Obama's head here. Why this understated reaction? Why are we not seeing Muslims around the United States, for example, cheering USA, USA, like we're hearing so many other folks? Why don't we get that reaction?
Because we Muslims in the United States, in the West and everywhere, are bothered by the extremist movement that is now operating within the Muslim community and the reaction to that movement. We would like to be, we are all thankful that Osama bin Laden was found and punished, but we don't want to cheer or not cheer. It's what happened.
But the Muslim community is always complaining, listen, we're peace-loving. We're peace-loving. We're not evil. We're not Osama bin Laden. We're not sympathetic to him. Here's an opportunity for a patriotic outpouring to say that, we love this country and we believe this was the right thing that was done. And it seems the Muslim community is once again silent. And I frankly, with all due respect, sir, don't think that's positive for you folks.
No, we are proud to be Americans. We are proud of this country. We are Americans in the fullest sense possible. We do not agree with Osama bin Laden's philosophy, but that, once a person dies, and it's better to leave the dead alone.
Thank you so much, Professor Mahmoud Ayub, Professor of Islamic Studies and Christian-Muslim Relations at Hartford Seminary. Very interesting talking with you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Coming up next, Governor Rick Scott live with the Budman in the final days of the legislative session. Is he going to veto that budget? He didn't get the tax cuts he said he was going to demand. We'll see that. We'll talk about immigration, all the other issues. Sunrail, it's all coming up right after the news with Michelle. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock.
WFLF Pine Hills, Orlando. WTKS FM HD2 Cocoa Beach. We report, you decide. 540 WFLA. 540 WFLA. Local news from the Fox Orlando News Center.
There's no way they can get this done before the end of the session on Friday. Rick Light,